Yeah, are we ready to go? Excellent. Okay,
Hey, Mr. Burns.
we have quorum, so we can go ahead and call our pre-meeting work session to order at 4:35 p.m. on August 20th, 2025 in the Orem City Council chambers. And we will begin our pre-meeting. Well, the whole point of our pre-meeting is to talk about the general plan and where we're at.
Great, thanks. And Grant has got a few slides prepared. We've made some progress on some things we wanted to talk about, and I'll turn it over to Grant. Oh, remote? Oh, I just see.
Will he be joining
Zoom.
the pre-meeting or just the regular meeting?
She didn't say. His
Okay.
assistant just said they needed the Zoom link. So
Sounds good. We will look forward to having him join us, Hasim Sakar, join us over Zoom.
okay, and then just a way of following from our fun meeting last time. You should have all received a notification email that you've been added to the shared Google Drive folder. Sometimes it comes into your Google, and if you have the categories as an update or all mail, so maybe potentially from spam, so check your spam.
I saw it just before the meeting.
Yeah, it was just about almost an hour ago. It's right before the meeting. So we have the introduction chapter and the current land use chapter, which we're going to continue the discussion tonight as far as what we've discussed and comments so far. So you can add comments on there. And as we talk in these future meetings, as you think of a comment, maybe live in the meeting, maybe write it down or to add later, or we can add those as we go. Now that we have that method to add comments to drafts, documents, and to collaborate on the text that way moving forward. So just as a way of where we are at, this is the existing map. I think I'm working on an update to this, so don't really focus on that. And then this is where we're at kind of today. These were copied over, so the text kind of copied. Interesting. But we're going to go back to, since we had some delays, we're going to go back to where we were August 6th. So what I was going to do is I think where we left off before with land use was we had the mapping discussion. We kind of got into that and looking at the maps and visually looking at the different parts of the city. And we ended up, I think, talking generally about some really cool ideas for buffers, et cetera, future classifications. So that's what we wanted to kind of really go through tonight, is what the existing classifications were. So I'm just going to pull up the existing general plan land use chapter. And look at that, it pulled up right there. So we can go through those classifications. Oh, well, it's really bright on the website. Okay. 2.1 of the current general plan has the land use classifications, and it outlines them starting with residential, and it has rural density residential consisting of rural open space and OS5 zones, low density residential, medium density residential, and high density residential. And then it has the definitions for those, and also the kind of classifications of the zones that also kind of match those. Then it shows the land use map. Then it shows commercial land use classifications. So I'm just going to go through these as it is now, and then we can kind of get into some discussion. So that moves to commercial land use classifications, and the following classifications are used to describe commercial professional services consisting of the professional office zone and office PD zones. Community commercial consisting of commercial non-retail C1, commercial local C2 business park, and commercial PD zones. And then regional commercial consisting of C2, C3 highway services, BP, and commercial PD zones. So there's kind of a cross classification there for some of the commercial zones. Then it has the definitions of each of those respectively: professional services, community commercial, regional commercial. Then we have industrial land use classifications, light industrial consisting of controlled manufacturing CM, light manufacturing M1, BP, and industrial PD zones. And then industrial consisting of light industrial M1, heavy manufacturing M2, and industrial PD zones. And then the respective light industrial and industrial classifications. Then it had the mixed use districts, and then it had planned development zones. Planned developments are permitted with several land use classifications. Then lastly, let's see. Yeah, there's no single general plan classification applicable to all planned development zones, since PD zones be designed to accommodate commercial or mixed use developments. But it does say, suggest here the uses in PD zones should be complementary and appropriate with surrounding uses. And then there was the note of the no residential PD zones in the low density residential classifications. And then we move on to 2.2, which is the annexation declaration. So I think from our previous discussion, we had discussed a few different, I can't remember if they're in my slides. Yes. So we had discussed, so we have residential, commercial, industrial, mixed use, and planned development. Then from our discussion before, we had kind of discussed some new commercial classifications, small business and neighborhood commercial, public facilities, as well as the university. And then we also had kind of maybe attached to this discussion previously, which could influence our other discussion of classifications, but as far as future studies of areas, and from the map discussion that we had, looking at the map of the city and looking at the different areas of the city, I think we can also think of how maybe there's another classification, whether it be residential, commercial, or industrial manufacturing, that could be informed for the discussion for the future classifications. Which ones do we keep? Which ones do we amend? Which ones do we revise? And which ones do we add? So I'm going to go back to this new land use classification tab, where I can move wherever you would like, and open for discussion with you all for continuing the discussion with these new or revisions to existing land use classifications.
Thank you, Grant. So should we take it for residential and then commercial and then just talk through them? Because one of the big issues, like we've pointed out before and discussed, is the fact that a lot of our current in all sections are very redundant, that we have the same thing in 2 or 3 different levels. And is that really, that's not useful. It's not useful to me. I don't think it would be useful to anyone picking this up and saying, where can we do this? Oh, look, you could do it everywhere. So why do we have a rural versus, I mean, do we even need a rural density? Low density, et cetera. So thoughts, opinions, let's go forth and talk. There's 4 of us, so we all can be on the mic at the
That
same
works for me. We can start at the beginning and just do each category.
Okay.
And some of them I'd like to define, like mixed use is not really defined in here or in there. It's pretty vague.
It's very vague.
And I don't, too vague, and it leaves the door open for just about anything. And I think that should be avoided. So we either have a definition of what it means, or I don't think it belongs.
Agreed. So
couldn't low density residential cover rural density residential? I mean, isn't that in essence almost the same thing anymore in Orem?
For sure, those two, I agree, definitely. And if you look at low density residential, R8 is the low end of that one. So it's anything that's R8, and it's hard to say above, but I mean, that because it's a lesser density, but like number wise for us.
Yeah, one of the problems with R8 versus an R20 is, would you really want somebody stabling a horse on an R8, but on an R20, certainly. There's no justification not to let you have a horse.
No, we've got that in our neighborhood. Somebody
Yeah,
still has.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The smaller the lot, the less feasible some things become. I know we have an OS5, which is 5 acres. That's a lot of land. But there, a lot of those things you can do on 5 acres, you can do on half an acre and still be a good neighbor. So that's the one reason I'm
Is it-
concerned about them being too blocked together.
Is it an agricultural slash?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we
Difference?
have an agricultural proviso that allows if you've got X number of footage that you're able to do more of these things. That might be a good approach.
An agricultural, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what's the connection then to the land use part of it? How do we make that? Because we're talking about kind of
Yeah.
zoning classifications. What's the land use category that denotes those? Are we talking about an open space kind of, or is rural residential still a thing? Can we go to the map? Because where is it currently showing up in the mapping as rural residential versus low density residential?
Most of it's on Geneva Road.
Yeah,
There's a
it's-
little bit up by the canyon, I believe.
Yeah, that's what we've always told. Southwest
Right.
corner and then the arm going into Provo Canyon.
So then your question, Madeline, or your statement is more like, is maybe more about, is this an agricultural, are these agricultural
Yeah.
areas? Should we be calling it agriculture or open space instead of rural residential?
I mean, you know, like down 1600 North, we just converted these farm properties
Uh-huh.
that were several acres. They were just right off 1600 North. They were actively farming it, growing peppers and tomatoes and other things. And there's a lot of lots in the city where people could do that and actually, you know, they're not going to make a fortune, but they could, you know, bring in produce at farmers markets and fruit stands and stuff so that they could still make a go of it and live in a more
Made
farm style life.
some of our orchards that still exist. Is that? what you're
Yeah,
referring
well, no, I mean, I know people with 1 acre lots.
Mhm.
You know, maybe you have a cow in your backyard and raise your own beef. My friends used to do that on their acre. You know, half of their yard was dedicated to raise the cow every year, and then took it to slaughter and
Started again.
fed them every year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could look at something like that, a targeted sort. Just because we're creating the category doesn't mean we're not bound to define where that goes right at this moment. We could still,
Yeah.
but if we leave a category open, like open space or agricultural preservation or something, then we can intentionally say these are spots where we're not necessarily going to zone out the possibilities for other things or limit everybody completely, but we would consider trying to find ways to help people keep agriculture or help people keep open space that's already there at the mouth.
And it gives us a good designation for our remaining orchards.
Sure. And then if there's ways that we can help them keep them, we
Yeah.
can do that. So whatever we call that, that's a category you'd be interested in having.
Yeah, I think so, but and maybe we just call it, you know, horse of a different color kind of thing.
Yeah.
To me, rural density residential means it's not agricultural. It's not, I can have my
It's
cow,
just
I can have my
big
chicken
lots.
coop, whatever. It's houses.
Yeah. Big lots.
And I guess it's what do we change that title to? Let's brainstorm some. What like
I think open space, that was suggestion, could be an option.
There's a term.
Is agricultural open space too specific?
I think that's
I
fine.
like
Open space and agriculture is fine, I think.
agricultural open space.
Yeah.
But that narrows it down too, because I think there's other uses for open space that isn't just agricultural.
Sure.
So making sure that but it could be agricultural and open space.
Mhm.
What's that term? It's the proviso you put on your land for settlers or homesteaders.
Homesteaders.
Some, because homesteaders do lots of things. They used to do logging, they used to do agricultural, they used to do,
Yeah.
raise cattle, whatever. They used to just live on it.
Chickens, rabbits, the whole
Yeah.
shebang.
And I think it's where you get closer to a homesteader when you're doing more of this stuff. You can be a gentleman farmer,
So would we keep the ROS and the OS 5 zones in there?
That's probably where they belong. Yeah. For the moment.
Okay. And then the next is low density residential, medium density residential. And again, we're talking everything, and I'm putting those two together on purpose because that's everything from R 20 down to R 7 point, no, 6. Sorry, I hate the way it's ordered. R6. So, and what's that cutoff? I mean, do we even want to differentiate between low and medium density? I'm putting these out as questions. I am not stating these as like opinion or fact. I'm just trying to throw out ideas so we can start discussing here. Like,
I personally don't think we do. I think it's confusing to people. I mean, I've had several conversations with people, they don't even know what R8 means.
no.
Like, well, that's kind of like where you live. And like, oh, well, I don't think we want to differentiate between the two.
Grant?
If I may,
Sorry.
the following definitions, which I skipped over, maybe I shouldn't have, because those do have maybe a connection to how they're split up in the current general plan. Low density residential classification established to provide the majority of housing stock within Orem. Typical suburban neighborhoods with single family homes on individual building lots should comprise the majority of development within LDR classification. Low density planned residential development should be scattered throughout the city to subordinate this to single family home. Then medium density is established to provide transitional areas where high density, then LDR classification is justified, and overall housing density between 4 units per gross acre and 7 units per gross acre is acceptable. So maybe that's where you're finding yourself discussing that, is where that line is with that existing definition and classification.
The reason I like the definitions is it is about density, and we're talking about, the impact to the infrastructure in the neighborhood. If it's a medium density area, we look at the roadways, are they wide enough to support, this much more traffic comparatively? Is there enough parking for this much more cars in a particular area when we're talking density? When we say low density, okay, just about every road will take an R8 neighborhood or higher. There's not going to be congestion of people on the streets parking. That's why I like the definitions. It separates the congestion and the impact to a given space when we talk about smaller and smaller. And we're still talking residential, we're high density, we're getting into apartments and multi-storied stuff, and that has a huge impact. And
Well, and I think there's also a difference, and I'm going to put this out there. I think there's a difference between what's single family residential and really between an R8 and an R7.5, there's virtually zero statistical difference on like how much impact there is in a neighborhood. Like it really is super close. It may be a house every.
it's like 500 square feet per lot, but when
Yeah.
you start stacking it up in, 5 acres, that's a number of extra houses.
It does over time. I mean, yes, but I mean, they're relatively similar. They really are.
Yeah, they are.
And I think I'm going to put this out there just to start discussion a little bit on this. I think there's a difference between residential, multifamily residential, which are our twin homes, our quads, that make up a fair portion of Orem.
Oh, yeah.
And then the high density residential, which I agree with you is apartments and high rises and
Although I'd say a four-picture jungle is high density. If like where I grew up, we had a number of duplexes across the street. We didn't notice any difference between them and the rest of the houses. But I also lived, we talked last meeting about that whole neighborhood. I grew up in that neighborhood, and there's a big difference between that and the residential street because of the number of units. And in fact, I lived in there. That was our first apartment. But there's a big difference between that. And so I think it all depends on how much you're putting out,
Well, yeah, and I think, and I want other people's opinions too, not just
Yes.
you and I to just keep talking, but like, I think there is an argument to be made that there is differences and that should be separated out. That there is differences between single family home neighborhoods and some of these multifamily neighborhoods. Because right now, am I correct in saying that most of our multifamily neighborhoods now are just listed as 6.5? I mean, that's exactly what we ran up to in some previous,
Yeah, or their PRDs.
or their PRD. That whole area above Macy's, it's
6 and 6.
6.5. So I guess what I'm saying is like, what if we created an actual area that said, nope, these aren't the same. Our single family homes that are at this density are not the same as our,
Oh, I know. Right off 800 North.
Yeah.
Okay.
And-
Took me a minute.
no, it's good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Rod.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, I grew up in a similar neighborhood. I grew up near Sharon Park, and there's all sorts of fourplexes there, and it's really aged poorly from when I grew up. But I think realistically in Orem, you're not, unless somebody comes in and just mass wholesale raises things and start redeveloping, I don't think it's a danger. The one reason I went along with saying no to the proposal last time, I didn't realize the narrowness of the streets.
Oh, it's narrow.
So that was news to me. But I think, I'm a scientific guess here, 95% of Orem, that really there's not going to be a lot of development and change unless somebody comes in with a lot of money. Not impossible.
Right. No, I don't disagree with that.
Because I just think anything we can do to make this more simple so that when people come in, can I do this? Can I not do this? What's our plan? Anything we can do to simplify it is a good thing to me. So I'm more along the lines of what you're saying, Madeline. I think there's ways to differentiate between the two. And I agree we need to avoid where it's going to be problematic. But I think in general, if we look at the city overall, that, it could be pretty cut and dry.
Can I make an observation just to build on kind of this conversation? Maybe it's a question of, or what should inform our conversation about it is that a lot of Orem is already built. So we're not talking about this 300 acres and what the general plan is going to say this 100 acres is medium density residential versus this 100 acres that is low density residential. And there's a very small distinction between those two things, what they'll allow, the 6 or 5 units the acre or 7 units the acre overall. We're not doing that really. We have a few places where that matters, but really our intent is not about a whole bunch of new units necessarily. It's about how we reinvest in areas and how we redefine those areas, how we make it so that people are able to do with their properties what they want to do within our kind of overall idea about what's appropriate. So that's the delineation really. What's our intent with these different designations? And if the intent is where we have these fourplexes or a preponderance of fourplexes and duplexes that have maybe aged poorly, if the general plan's designation doesn't need to say, yes, you can do them or no, you can't because they're already there. What is the intent of having the land use designation different for that area versus another area? And if it's to bring reinvestment, great, then let's designate it in a different way. And remember that these designations just help us decide what to do with the zoning code, which is we're just deciding where in the car to put the pedals. And then the zoning code pushes on them or lets off them or whatever. So keep that in mind as you talk about it.
I like that thought, because then you could designate, we have these grants for medium density residential, and we're going to apply them to the older neighborhoods with these smaller lots and smaller homes.
And maybe they're road grants to help us widen roads or put in better infrastructure, whatever's
Yeah,
damaged there.
but
right?
it's designated for the areas that probably need the more update and the help.
Well, and that's why I bring in multifamily as a potential category that we need to really discuss, is because we right now have a problem in our code, as we have seen, that we really have no way, not just to develop them, but to redevelop them. There isn't really code. We have our PRDs, we have PDs. I think the general idea is that we are moving away from those and want to move away from those. And I think that those are great examples of ways that our code has been used, because the rest of they've used those because the rest of the code doesn't allow for that. And I think that the more I've done some research on this and the more I've thought about this, I really do feel that we need to acknowledge these areas in Orem, and we need to make them more forward in what we're doing. And so we can create, as he says, we can make the pedal. And then as we're going through other processes, we can create, we can push on those and create so that there can be redevelopment, so that there can be. So, I mean, if we still want two different residential, a medium, a low and a medium, I think that's fine. Multifamily, still residential. It's just a different classification. But I'm putting it out there.
It sounds like we might need it just so that we can have ordinances strictly for them to ensure that they're able to upkeep their stuff and modify things appropriately. We should never stifle somebody's ability to take care of their property and enhance it. So
Absolutely.
if that's devoid, then I say we have a multifamily category that's included in there. I think sometimes it gets shuffled because it is a business at the same time as it is a
Right.
residence.
And we've also talked about that.
Yeah.
That at what point do we put in other laws in our economics or a business side that makes running multifamily units more like other businesses? But again, those are another steps, but I think we need to start with something. Grant?
I was just going to maybe tail off the discussion after Jared's comment, that as you create these classifications, that then would create the condition, I think, an opportunity to reevaluate the existing zones. That we haven't discussed that yet, because that's kind of following this update. But I think it's important to remember that that's a byproduct of this discussion. And once we get down that path, we can still kind of be informed at this level when we're having that. It's just going back to the mapping discussion, right? What's appropriate, what do we feel is appropriate, what's existing, and then when that reinvestment category, what does it look like? We can really fine tune that through thinking now of what the future zones could also be, could be. So that they kind of inform each other.
Yeah. Jerry, Rod, anything you want to?
No, I agree with the discussions. I think we're, I think exactly how we do it's going to take shape as we talk and think about this. But I think I agree. We need to do something that will facilitate, the Geneva Heights area, the Sharon Park area, and some of the others that would allow people to come in and, fix up their fourplexes or whatever and make the neighborhood better.
That's a great point. And then I'll shut up after this, I promise. But
We
remember that
appreciate your feedback.
these categories, that we create these categories, low density, medium density, and then they reference we have
Closer.
definitions for them. And we reference zones that they support.
Sorry, Jared, we can't hear you.
Oh,
You're gonna have
sorry,
to.
yeah. We create these categories like medium density and low density, and we have definitions for how high the densities go in them, for example, and we talk about zones that they support, et cetera. And there is no law that says you have to do it in that formula. You could instead reference things like in the medium density category where we apply it, we want to look for ways to reinvest in existing attached housing properties. We want to look for opportunities to add to some of those in meaningful ways. You can say whatever you want. There are no rules that say we have to do it this way. It's just a formula that gets followed a lot of times. So if we want to do it differently because we need to, because of the position that we're in, we should consider doing that. Okay? Just keep that in mind. You don't have to do it exactly the way we've done it. And maybe lots of the changes we'll make will not be in what the categories are called, but in how their definitions are formed and in the things that we attach to them. And they could reference future zones that we don't have yet. They don't have to reference what we already have. They can, but they don't have to only do that. Okay, so keep that in mind as we talk.
Yeah, and that's partly why I propose that maybe we create a multifamily zone, because I think we tend to lump it in with high density. And I think that there is a difference between an apartment complex on State Street and some of these pockets, because some of them are pockets. It's literally like 4 twin homes or duplexes in a row. Or like we have a street going into my neighborhood. It's duplexes on both sides for, most of the street. And then it's single family homes all around it. So I think there are a lot of these pockets. And I think that also, well, that's I had another thought. Sorry, pop into my head. But like, I think that that's why we should split them off. And I do think there is some advantage to saying, well, what do we mean by residential? Do we really want low and high? Do we really care about the definition between low and high? Does that matter to us? Or is it how we define this, that this is residential? Single family detached homes that are less than blank per acre or whatever, however we want to define it. I guess my question is low and high or just one category? Speak, please.
Well, I think there needs clear definition between the two of how much per acre is allowed in this,
Well,
to me, that's a gimme. I personally like the low and medium, simply like I said, because there can be infrastructure impacts and differences between the two. I love Jared's comments about the granting, because those medium density neighborhoods are probably where we do want to invest things that come before us, because those are the neighborhoods that tend to be a lot older. They were part of the 1919, buildup, or the Geneva buildup, and so they've been around a lot longer, and they could use a cleanup in the streets and the parks and things like that, sidewalks. So I love that designation more because of what Jared said than because of my original statement. Just gives us an easy way to delineate. But I do think we have these conversations all the time, and there needs to be a clear definition between the difference.
they're absolutely, if we're going to
We
keep
do
them.
need that high density, because these discussions get lost and it gets very ambiguous if you just say residential.
Yeah. I do agree with that. It's just the low versus medium, or is it residential, or like, how do we want to parse it out? And I agree with you. It's a definition thing here. Like, really, how do we want to define these? And another thing to put in for percolating and thinking about it a little bit is, do we really want to keep our designations the way they are? Are they serving us? Does R8 really serve us? Does it really mean anything? Does
No.
it really? I think it makes more sense than some cities, but then again, I'm used to our system versus others. Some people, it's literally the square foot lot. You have an R5 because it's 5,000 square feet. That's the lot size. So there's
That's what ours are. 8,000
8,000 square foot. That is ours.
R8,
Sorry, there
yeah.
are some that are the other way, but anyway, or use bigger numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm trying to get at. Sorry.
No, I figured you just got them swapped.
Sorry. Yeah, great. Oh,
So,
Rod first. and then-
Yeah, Rod, go.
so could we, to address your concern, Mike, could we do something like residential? Then instead of medium density, multifamily. And then high density.
Isn't that what we got? Other
Well,
than we had an agricultural.
That's
as
kind
well.
of the way I was rewriting it down. You split residential
I see
if
what
you
you're
wanted
saying.
low and medium in residential and how that's defined.
But he said medium, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, he said turn medium.
He said
into-
residential, medium,
Medium being
high, and
multifamily.
multifamily, and then
Okay,
high.
Just saying residential, multifamily, high.
yeah.
And then within those, define what they mean.
Yeah, we can come up, this is where actually having a document that we were working on and could all see would help. So, but,
Yeah, you can come up with a different way to do it. I just love Jared's suggestion on that. I just thought it,
yeah. So, I guess, and that's where I would start saying, what's the definition? What's the difference? What do you see as low?
well,
What do we see as medium?
yeah, you could put low density and move up the R20s into agriculture.
Yeah. I mean, how much R20 do we have?
There's a lot of half-acre lots.
Where? Just scattered?
I could pick out 6 to 10 on 1200. I could pick out 3 or 4 on 1600.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
We'll just see if they can bring it up.
My in-laws was 3/4 of an acre. Their neighbors were 3/4 of an acre.
Yeah.
And
They've
their
got a
neighbors.
Yeah.
So I hate to say it, but this is where that housing study really would be
I know.
helpful to already. And we have some data from that housing study. We can use that to start to
Yeah.
parse out average sizes in block by block neighborhoods or something. But there, we could start talking about really with multifamily, sometimes we're really talking about attached housing
Yeah.
as opposed to detached housing.
And I think that that is what part of the definition is
We could-
attached.
We can take the next couple of weeks and take a stab at starting to write some different versions of things, buffet style, and we'll go back through and say what starts to make sense in these definitions
Yeah.
for the categories. I think we're hearing where you're headed with it for
Right.
sure. It makes some sense.
I guess I still want to parse out from you guys what you feel the difference between low and medium density is. And not in terms of like ours and our, maybe not in terms of the actual numbers, but because really, I mean, if you, R8 is low density and then everything else is medium density, I mean, that's kind of R12s. It looks like we have R12s too.
R12s and R20s.
R12s and R20, are they low or
Those are
agricultural
low
open space?
currently.
Yeah.
When we're talking about, I'm more thinking about the locations in the city, kind of like where Rod grew up. We've got a lot of older homes on smaller lots. But down in the Sharon area, we could use some of that investment as well as down in the Geneva Heights area.
See, because I don't see how you separate personally R 7.5 from R8.
I don't either.
And I mean,
That's why you could
R.65
move
and
those
R-
top two up.
what's that?
You could move those higher designations up to the agricultural and make it a residential. So 12 and 20 are in that higher category, and then 6 through 8 is in the residential.
And that's kind of what I was trying to propose. Like saying, like, isn't it all from really R8 down? Isn't it just all residential? And it really, a lot of the issues come down to what the actual neighborhood situation is. Because we have R8s with great wide roads and we have R8s that have tiny little roads too. It just depends on when they were built and when they were developed. And it's the same for the R6s.
Yeah.
Some of the
But-
roads are wider.
I think some of those are just
Some of them
because
are
of
smaller.
a blanket R8 definition.
Yeah.
Like around Geneva Park.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean,
So the last statements were just made, makes sense to me.
say that, repeat
Move
it.
the
Sorry.
higher R12 and up to more, whether it's as agriculture / open space or however we categorize it, and then residential's residential.
Could also just do it agricultural low density. And then
Yeah.
you have your residential density. And then,
The
And you have
half
the
acre, the half acre kind of feels like where it goes to agriculture to me. 12s feel like just low, like very low, maybe even very low density, but still, there's plenty of like subdivisions that have 12 and 13,000 square foot
Yeah,
lots.
it's
and
just
things,
a
not as
bigger,
But the half an acre, that's where you really start to do open space preservation or agriculture or.
R12 is
orchard.
usually the corner of your cul-de-sacs.
Exactly.
so basically bring R12 down to residential density and then have an agricultural low density.
Above that.
Above that.
That makes sense to me, but it's the half acre is kind of where I would cut it probably to give a good kind of
I
easy to remember place.
half acre, I think that's again, but for people coming in and looking at our code, anything half acre above is considered agricultural low density. And then everything above is single family homes would be residential density. Then we'd have a multifamily category. The question that keeps popping into my head is where do we put the trailer parks? Do they count as multifamily or do they count as
They're archival.
there are, but we still have some, but it's the same issue, right?
We have a
We still
lot.
have them. We still have quite a few. And they're still operating and
They probably
legitimate
belong-
businesses and homes.
And in terms of affordable housing, they provide a lot of affordable housing.
Yeah, they do.
In terms of upkeep too, there's some of the nicest neighborhoods we have in the city, to be honest.
There you go.
I drive through them all the time.
I grew up by a really nice trailer park.
Yeah.
That's where I learned to swim. They're worth protecting. I don't know what category they belong in.
Well, let's just say if you could write multifamily, so
I'd
it was
say
either
multifamily.
attached or trailer or
They're kind of-
prefabricated. Well, we have to be careful with prefabricated because there's more prefabricated homes coming in that are not going to be.
They're
for those.
Call
I'm
them
just-
multifamily
condos
because
in
the
terms
park
of-
is generally owned by an individual.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're almost like condos in that way. You
Yeah.
got your slip or whatever, so they're multifamily.
So as I recall, when we did our map exercise, we had 7 in Orem. Does that sound right?
Something about like that.
2, 3 on Geneva.
Give Mike a second. He's counting.
I think, yeah.
At least 7.
And then defined high density is the apartment complexes and condo.
The existing apartment complexes and stuff around the university, et cetera. That's
Anything over 2 stories.
It depends on how we
Automatically
write
falls.
our, well, it depends on how we write our
for height.
height and for townhomes and stuff. But yeah. No, I think that is a difference between multifamily and high density. It's just townhomes become the issue because it's the 3-story versus 2-story thing. And we just have to make sure. whatever we
Townhomes,
do-
that's a basement though, not, they don't get to go up 3
No.
vertical stories.
That's what is currently in our PRDs.
Yeah.
But if we were to create an ordinance for, we just have to define it that way so that
Yeah.
it was limited to 2 stories in a basement.
So
Or
could you
whatever.
say it again so I understand it? They currently can have 3 stories and no basement or
So
no?
in a PRD, if you build a townhouse in a PRD, you can either have 2 stories in a basement or you can have 3 stories, right? Or is it just
No, you
limited to
can't
2
go
stories
to
in a
2
basement?
stories.
It's just 2 stories in a basement.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a height thing. You can still have an upstairs, right, with a basement, but there's a restriction.
There's another restriction though.
Yeah, it
but I haven't-
causes a different
There's
restriction.
another restriction that comes into place if you have a
Yeah,
basement.
but they still have the height restriction of a normal home.
Yeah. And in some of these areas, we can be more prescriptive about what we allow in it than,
Yeah.
especially because I think we still have multifamily, we have a lot more control, right? Is that a correct memory?
So the state code restricts what you can do for architecture and material requirements for single-family detached homes, but not for multifamily attached homes. Not yet.
Yeah.
So
Not yet. So keep that in mind.
keep that in mind. We
Yeah.
haven't changed that yet.
So just, we're getting close on our time a little bit. So just to recap, so we do an agricultural low density, which would be R20 down to R12. And then residential density would be,
Jared thought we
I
should
mean,
move
12.
R12 down
Sorry.
to.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's the 3.
And he has a good point because your cul-de-sacs often go up to 12
Yeah.
to 13.
I drove my line wrong. R12 down to R6 would be residential density. Multifamily, we would have to create some language about it being attached homes and trailer parks. And high density would be because I think it just clarifies it. And I really like the half acre. Is everyone good on the half acre as a dividing line?
Yeah.
Are you good on a half acre dividing line? Okay, Jerry nods. So, then commercial, we have talk about it for 5 minutes. So commercial right now, if you look, everything's in every zone or every zone overlaps 2 or 3 times. But again, it's the same thing we were just talking about. We have professional services, we have commercial, community commercial and regional commercial. We've also talked about adding the public facilities to that. But does that really count as a commercial?
What? As what?
The community, no, the professional services.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the profession, is that supposed to be offices and
No, yeah.
business?
Oh, I'm sorry, not professional services, the city-based one, the one that we put all the city land in.
I think we were just going to add that as,
Public facilities, that's what it is.
I think we were just going to add that as its own
Own category.
new category, similar
Okay.
to the university category.
Yeah.
The new commercial, I don't know, can you see that on your screens?
Yeah.
Where I think I captured what we discussed, but it was the small business and neighborhood commercial. but there may have been more from our discussion.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the question is, do we still feel like we need some sort of professional office for our PO zones?
Professional services. Professional services seems a lot more like regional commercial as well. That they're, I mean, you have people shop or you can have people come to the office. There's still people coming from areas, to
Thank you. Good.
I
Just
I like
for
the
the record.
categories Grant had in his slide though, that we talked about earlier.
Commissioner Sakar has joined us now. Okay. Yeah. With the one like small business
Yeah,
versus,
I think there's a little more diversity in what's in the old plan than we need, but I liked some of the ones we talked about, which would be real community commercial, like, I don't know what Grant had on there for the names, but
yeah.
neighborhood commercial, yes.
I mean, I think right now so much of our commercial is mixed. You have small businesses next to regional things, next to,
Yeah.
and like, how do we want to break those? Does that matter? Are we going to get
Well,
that specific? Like
The
what?
thing I like is, so like if you drop I don't know, a 7-Eleven close to a neighborhood like we used to have on 400 North, down off, what would be 8th West. If we put a 7-Eleven there, now that's commercial, which opens it up to making the whole road commercial. But if you make it something like that, a neighborhood commercial where you're very limited to things that nobody's going to drive to go to that. It's just going to people in the surrounding area are going to enjoy it. Like the little grocery store that used to be there across the street. It was only shopped by the people in that area for the most part. So there's a good value add for the people in the neighborhood to have those things, but it doesn't open them up to, Big O Tire and all these other bigger shops to start showing up, and all of a sudden 4th North is a big commercial corridor.
Yeah. So
That's why I like having something a little lighter so that we could do things a little more versatile without, pulling the orange from the bottom of the pile.
yeah. So I think neighborhood commercial is something we all have talked about and kind of lean towards and like that designation for smaller things. Grant?
If I could, similar to the light industrial, you have the type of like light commercial versus neighborhood commercial. And maybe those are two different scales. Just thought I'd add that to take a term from another category.
Yeah. Though I will argue that neighborhood sounds more like Family City USA. And that's,
And I think it indicates that it's meant for the neighborhood, where light commercial might mean, okay, I'm doing a prefab shop, and yeah, it's
Does light
because
commercial-
it's small stuff,
does light commercial make better sense to people than community commercial? I mean, when you say regional commercial, I think we can get. Regional commercials, the idea of things that attract other people into our city to shop and to spend money here.
Yeah, that's why I thought professional services and regional commercial seem to be kind of the same thing. This is a general plan, so it's an overarching thing anyway.
Yeah. And I'm not against moving professional services. Rod?
So in this, the one that you'd put up, Grant, I think I know the answer, but just to be clear in my mind, where does places like Kim Hospital fit?
Oh, we've talked
Or
about
the new
medical.
surgical center?
We've talked about creating a medical. That should be here too. It would be commercial. We could have a medical designation too.
Yeah, the 800 North Corridor would be a great designation for medical commercial.
There's a lot of land still
It's
around.
already started that way.
Yeah,
Well,
and
yeah.
there's a lot of land around the IHC hospital,
Yeah.
which is totally escaping my brain right this second, but I know where it is. I can see it in my head. So I think medical, I think you're right. Thanks for bringing that up. I think medical.
The mouth of the canyon.
No.
There's
there's
one
also
on
that area.
4th North.
The one on 4th North, but that is also another area where we have several behavioral hospitals and
Yep.
several things. That should be another, I think that would be a great. And we've also talked about if Vineyard builds out, that we may need some more of that on our side over in Geneva too. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that as projective, long-term
Yeah.
possibility. So basically the community commercial, do we want to call, I mean, that would be a community light commercial is what we're kind of talking about. Like what, currently we're saying that's C1, C2, and business parks, which seems, business parks, I would agree, are regional, like regional should be so we're saying professional office for regional,
I think community commercial kind of falls within the C3 as we designate it at the highest.
business park.
But
Regional would be C3. Oh, no, C2. I just get them backwards. Wait,
I still don't know what C1 is
I
really.
have no idea what C1 is. Do we have C1? Anyone? Anyone know?
Supposedly
C1?
we have a
Sugar-free
C1 in the
commercial.
city.
That's what that is. C1 is sugar-free
For free
commercial.
commercial? Okay.
I know
Non-retail.
C4 causes lots of explosions.
Yeah.
We'll avoid that designation.
I don't think we should have C2 in two places.
I agree.
So C2's just
So-
doesn't matter.
C,
C2, C2. So if we're going to have C2,
well, C2 is, yeah. C2's the big one. I
It's
always
the
get
most
backwards.
common.
Yeah,
of your
C2 is what we have the most of. C3 is supposed to be transitional to neighborhoods, but it's all mixed together in a lot of
It
places.
sounds to me like you want a zone, this is just me
Yeah, please.
reading. It sounds to me like you, for neighborhood commercial as a designation and medical commercial as a designation, you want zones that would give preference to those things. Like in a medical commercial, you would give preference to a hospital, surgical center, that kind of thing. In a neighborhood commercial, you wouldn't necessarily preclude medical, but the scale would be smaller. A small optometrist, the dentist might have an office there. Am I
Yeah.
reading that right? And we can absolutely write that kind of stuff if this general plan tells us to do that.
Yes.
So we create those categories, we'll add medical, commercial to one, we place it in the right place, and it tells us to find ways to make either the zoning that we have do those things, or write the zones that need to be there. We'll go for that.
Okay. Does anyone else want to make any quick comments? Because we're about time to wrap up for our regular meeting. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the discussion, and that's some good brainstorming because I will actually get us moving forward on some of this. So we will go ahead and end our work session and adjourn until our regular meeting at 5:27. Yeah, I know. Isn't that odd?
There's big pros. Big pros. I don't think that's a
Okay, we'll go ahead and call our Planning Commission meeting to order at 5:31 PM on August 20th, 2025 in the Orem City Council Chambers. And we will begin with an invocation from Rod.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this favorable facility we have to meet in and for the opportunity we have to express our ideas and views and thoughts on how our city should move forward. We're grateful for the many wonderful things we enjoy here in Orem. We ask you to bless us with thy spirit this evening, that we'll be civil in our discussions, that we'll focus and concentrate on the things that are important and find ways to address issues moving forward. And we ask for these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. So we'll begin with item 3, which is our consent agenda, with item 3.1, which is approval of Planning Commission meeting minutes for August 6, 2025, and item 3.2, Cascade Vista Plat C. It's a plat amendment located generally at 438 North, 850 East, and it's a proposed correction of lot lines. If anyone has any questions or wants to remove anything. Okay. Then do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that Orem City Planning Commission approve items 3.1 and 3.2, the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay. Rod moved and Hasten seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Mike?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent agenda item is approved. Our first item this evening is item 4.1, which is a public hearing consideration of amendment to the Orem City General Plan, adding proposed Chapter 9, water use and preservation. I will turn it over to Jared.
It's to me, thanks. Matt, I'm pinch hitting for Matt tonight. He got called away. He's done a lot of good work on this chapter element. Am I too far from it? Thank you. Matt's done a lot of work on this. I'm going to go through the slides for you and we'll talk about this potential chapter. This is a state mandated portion that we need to add to the general plan. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Senate Bill 110 in 2022 was passed, and it requires that we add a water conservation and use element to our general plan as a city. And it's intended to do certain things, and they're listed here. It needs to measure the effect of permitted development on water demand and infrastructure, or at least consider that. And it needs to identify methods for reducing water demand and per capita consumption for future development and for reducing water demand for existing development, and identify opportunities to modify operations to eliminate or reduce conditions that waste water, and integrate that kind of thing with the land use planning and development aspects of our general plan, and evaluate our use demand rather than just assuming adequate supply. It really is pretty broad. A lot of the things that are in this element, in this chapter, are already in our general plan and in our code, but we're restating them in this section as required by the state, because we're supposed to start, the main takeaway needs to be that we are supposed to start considering as municipalities what effect our development patterns have on water use, and not just assume that there's always going to be water. Is that fair enough to say? So as a background, the state has in there, when they passed this Senate bill, talked about the reasons they did this. Utah being the second driest state in the nation, that most of the city water is used by residential development. Meeting state goals can save 2.5 billion gallons, et cetera. So these are the reasons that the state gave us for adding this element, and it's been attached to the agenda, so it's been available for review. And a couple of other things we want to talk about. These are policy considerations that we've identified. This alignment of land use with water demand is it does these things, mandates that we consider the impacts, and we've already kind of said these things, but I'm just restating. It mandates that we consider the impacts of land use planning on water use in our general plan. And that's what this section, as Matt has drafted, it does. We need to achieve those goals. It requires a concerted effort. And your decisions about zoning development, as we have to recognize that they have effects on our ability to meet targets for water conservation. So we need to take all that into account. And that's that for this general plan amendment. It is a public hearing, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, so we need to open it for public comment. We haven't received anything online that I'm aware of. It has been available for a bit. So I don't have anything to read into the record, but if you want to open it up for public comment, we're happy to take any questions you have, whatever you need.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
No, but I have a comment. Utah is not the second driest state in the nation.
Which one is? I found that.
Nevada and Arizona come before us. We're third.
Number 3.
Even California is wetter than we are?
California is very wet along
know,
coastal
I know.
line. I'm surprised New Mexico's not there.
I was surprised about New Mexico too.
Yeah.
But according to ChatGPT, and it never lies, we're 3.
Or 3.
So it's not our governor.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So, okay. Any other comments from the city council? I apologize, the planning commission. Okay.
Other than, can we call this the pot calling the kettle black section?
So we're just making a recommendation to city council about it. So I will go ahead and open the meeting for a public comment. I always get them mixed up. I'm sorry. For public comment, and anyone who's interested can come forward at this time.
He's
And-
smiling. Maybe he wants to come forward.
I think he's our next applicant. He may
I
care
know.
about water in Orem, he may. But as we have nobody here in council chambers coming forward, we will go ahead and close the public comment at this time. Okay,
I have to apologize. I don't have a slide for the options, but you mentioned that what you're doing here is making a recommendation. So you'll be voting or making a motion to send a recommendation for approval or denial of this general plan amendment to the city council.
so, okay. Anyone want to make a motion or any further discussion?
I recognize the need to put it in a section and I don't really recognize what's in it.
I think this is one of those, it's adequate, it meets state code. Whether or not we agree with what's in it is,
Is pertinent.
well, I mean, in this case, but it's true, a lot of this is coming from other stuff.
Right.
It isn't like this is just, it's literally like, this is where all this stuff is. So just putting it in one place and making it more public.
So I agree with what you said. The concern I have, for the record, is that this is an unfunded mandate. They're going to levy requirements now or in the future on residents that may or may not have the funds to execute what's being required by state code. They'll have a hard time enforcing it, but I wanted to offer that. But I agree with you, Madeline. This is state code, and I'm not feeling like Don Quixote tonight.
Okay. Any other comments? Can we get a motion?
I make a motion that we recommend approval. Is that the right verbiage? Recommend approval for the city.
No, a positive recommendation.
Positive recommendation, thank you. Probably about the time my term ends, I'll have it right. I move that we make a positive recommendation to the city council.
To adopt this. Okay. Second? I will second it just so we can move on. Okay, so you moved, so you can say more if you want to move, say more, Rod, for a positive recommendation.
So I get from discussions that there are issues with this. I personally have issues with it as well, but I think this is not the forum to address those issues. I think if our city council wants to take it up, that's their prerogative. If private individuals want to take it up, my feeling is that that's okay. But so as far as I feel our Our purview is make a recommendation or no.
Okay, thank you. And I kind of concur with Rod that, do I have issues with some of the stuff in here? Absolutely. Do I think that this law needs to be amended? Yep. But again, this is not something that we can control or do. We need to do this and then fight it another. And I agree that if the city council wants to take it up in a different way, that's their prerogative. But as far as I can see, it meets code and does what it's supposed to do.
They can take it up either way, regardless of how we vote.
It's true. And they'll vote however they want.
That's true.
We're just making a recommendation. So either way. So any other comments? Mike, do you want to say anything more?
No.
Jerry, do you want to say anything? Haysom, do you want to say anything? Okay, then we will go to vote. Okay. Mike? Okay. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's 4-1, so the motion passes and we will pass on a positive recommendation to City Council. And then we will begin with item, I need to check on this. Do you want me to read both of them in or just do one at a time?
We can do them one at a time.
Okay.
The majority of the discussion will probably be more pertinent to the site plan, so I'll move through the subdivision more quickly.
Okay, so item 4.1 is Raising Cane's preliminary plat subdivision located generally at 11 West Center Street. Proposed vacation of lots 3 and 4 of Albertson Center subdivision and creation of a Raising Cane's Plat A and a single lot subdivision.
Thank you. So this is, as you said, a preliminary plan, a preliminary subdivision. The Planning Commission's role is to evaluate that. The preliminary subdivision in this case is intended to combine these two existing parcels, these two existing lots that are part of an existing subdivision. We'll remove them from that subdivision and create the new Raising Cane's subdivision and make a single lot out of them. It is in the C2 zone, our most common zoning designation for commercial, as we just discussed. This is right across the street from me where the existing Burger King is, and Grace will be going through the site plan in a moment. And she can go through all of those things with you. I'm just going to focus on the subdivision aspects. They're going to combine these two lots because the whole property would be used by the new restaurant that would be proposed. I zoomed in a little bit here to show you more straightforward. There is an easement that runs through. No building would cross that easement and create any problem. They'd leave that in place. There are some cross-access and parking agreements that don't need to show on the plat. They're just part of the site planning. And there is this one big easement for access on the west end of the property, of the two properties now, but one property if it's approved. And that's really all there is to this subdivision. It just combines those two lots and redesignates the easements, et cetera. You have any questions about what's been proposed there? Okay. It is a preliminary subdivision, so it's not something you make a recommendation on. It's something you make a decision, and then we would process a final plat if the Planning Commission approves.
Okay. Any comments? Okay, then we'll go to motion. Does anyone have a motion on this?
I motion that the Orem City Planning Commission approve the request for preliminary subdivision approval for Raising Cane's preliminary subdivision located generally at 11 West Center Street in the C2 zone, approximately 1.29 acres.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mike moved and Haysom seconded that we approve the preliminary subdivision for Raising Cane's. Haysom?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the preliminary subdivision is approved and we will move on to item 4.3, Raising Cane's. It's a site plan. Again, located generally at 11 West Center Street. Proposed demolition of Burger King and construction of Raising Cane's restaurant with a drive-through window. Thank you, Grace. Go ahead.
All right, there we go. Hi, everyone. This is this is me getting a little training, so you get to just kind of be the witness of this first event that I get to do. So yeah, we're talking today about the site plan for Raising Cane's, which this is basically kitty corner to where we are right now. And currently we have a Burger King sitting on that site, and it takes up a smaller portion of that area. They're combining that lot to create just more space that they need in order to be able to have that drive-through and have the the parking and so forth that they need. Is this done like that? Okay. So again, it's zoned C2, and right across we have a little bit of C3, and that's more of the regional type commercial situation. But all along this corridor, I'm sure you're very much aware of the fact that this is mainly C2 in this area. And of course, C2 allows for restaurants in this type of use that we're looking at here today. This also requires some State Street corridor standards that we will talk about a little bit as we look at this more closely. And because they are redeveloping this property, they have to now meet those new requirements that we have in place. First, we'll just take a look at some of the accessibility and parking requirements that we have for this area. We're going to have and they're going to have an entrance that's already there, that's on the north side, as you can see. And also we have an entrance on the west of the property, and also easements through the properties to the south. So we've got quite a bit of accessibility when it comes to vehicles at this location. We also have a drive-through on the south portion of this property. It's a 2-lane drive-through, and there was a lot of back and forth that we had with the designers of this to try and make sure that we got a plan that made the drive-through as accessible as possible and provided enough parking for those people who were in that drive-through. So this is the best plan that we could come up with based upon the size of the lot and where that would be. Also, we're dealing with accessibility, not just for vehicles, but we're also talking about people who are on bikes, people who are walking, and you'll notice that we have buffered sidewalks, which definitely makes it more appealing for those who are walking or riding bikes. And we have 15 feet from State Street to the sidewalk, and the sidewalk is an 8-foot sidewalk. And then after that, we have 15 feet of also landscaping there also to kind of give people more of a pleasant and safe experience as they're walking or riding their bikes, whatever they might be doing. So we have quite a bit of accessibility that has been created in this particular project. Also, you'll notice that the parking requirements are just 27 stalls, but we have more than that. They provided 34, and 2 of those are ADA accessible. All right, next is dealing with the landscaping that we have on this. And this is we're dealing with some of the State Street requirements as well when we're talking about the landscaping. We got 15-foot planter strips that are going on here. And in the interior, if you notice on the corner, the northeast corner there, the sidewalk goes out to the very edge there, of course, to facilitate people being able to cross the street and so forth. But then we have some stormwater management happening right there in that planter strip, which, we definitely invested some time in investigating the stormwater and making sure the stormwater stayed on the site and that all of that worked for the property. Also, the requirement for the landscaping in this property would only have been 8,078 square feet. They provided 13,429 square feet. So we've got quite a bit of vegetation on this property, much more than is currently there. And also we've got some seating that you can't quite see, but on the east side, is from the sidewalk going towards the building, there'll be some seating and so forth for people. So it definitely would be more of a pleasant experience for the person who is coming to this restaurant than what we have currently in place. We are required to have a tree every 40 linear feet on State Street. And this definitely accommodates that, but also takes into account safety issues and making sure that cars have sight lines that are appropriate for them so we don't have any accidents in this area. We have 14 trees listed on this property. So it's definitely going to be greening up that space from what it is now. If we look at the elevations, we'll see that the requirements that State Street has for elevations are being met. Mainly, they like materials to be such as bricks, glass, and stone and fiber and cement and so forth. And they also like vertical breaks at least every 50 feet. Their design definitely meets those standards. So does anyone have any questions about any of this?
Yes.
Yes.
You can.
Can you go back to the planters one more? Yeah, this
Yes.
15 feet. Is the applicant here? I'm assuming.
Well, yeah, we'll have the applicant come up next. Is your
Okay,
question for
so
the applicant or for city?
These requirements, are they mandated requirements now, or they're volunteering all the extra space, extra seating, extra?
It's
trees
the,
and-
the state street, these are state street requirements, and there's 15 feet of landscape before the sidewalk, which is 8 foot, and then 15 feet afterwards before you can have your building or parking. So they're meeting this in their design, they're meeting those requirements. Yeah.
I'll ask the applicant.
Okay. Any further questions for staff? Okay.
Are you,
Mike?
that inlet, is that new? I don't remember one being there.
No, although that's
You know,
been
back
there.
one?
Yes.
Are you checking the north entrance?
Keep going. Yeah,
That is the.
one more. I just don't remember that.
There's an inlet there. I know it's hard to see with
Okay.
the lines over there, but there is one there. So they're not adding anything new
Yeah, I
in that
just,
sense.
it's so close to the intersection concerned me that.
It is.
Because we have that mess up on 800 and State already.
Yep.
And it's the same exact thing that wasn't going to cause an issue, but
Yes,
It
this is
definitely
what
has.
currently is there. So I'm not sure what the history is
Sure.
with accidents at that location currently, but they're not adjusting that in any way.
yeah.
All right. Would the applicant like to come forward and say anything or add? Jared, you'll have to. Thank you for getting in the mic.
Yeah, nothing major to add. Thank you, Grace. I'm here to answer any additional questions y'all may have for me. I'm representing Chris Bick with the civil engineer with Kimley Horn, Braden Alsop. In general, we've worked with city staff to answer all their questions and their comments, and this overall meets all city code.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah,
Tyson?
this is for curiosity.
Yeah.
You're giving up a lot of space that can be used to give you, your ROI per square foot. Why are you giving up so much vegetation and parking stalls?
Are you
That
asking
required.
giving up parking stalls for vegetation?
Yeah, I mean, you're adding more parking stalls, you have additional space for vegetation. Is there, you're giving up that space. I wouldn't have given it up. I was just met requirement.
Yeah.
So why is it, is that city staff recommendation? Is that your own will?
The building square footage is not city staff recommendation. The parking ratio,
Yeah.
of course, parking requirement per building square foot. That's meeting city code. I can't speak for the architect necessarily or the client directly on why they chose to do it that way. I know a lot of canes do typically have more landscaping standards. They like to make the sites look really pleasant that way.
Great, we're excited to have you here.
Yeah, I think it'll draw the crowds, honestly. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful campus. I was curious, I'm sure you're going to have signage. Where was the signs going to be located and the tall, going to be monument signs? or-
Morning.
Yeah, there's a sign on that northeast corner. That's where
Right at the
cane sign will be.
intersection?
Correct.
It'll be a monument or,
Right.
okay.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Again, since this is a site plan, we're the final approving authority on this. So if there's no further discussion, we can propose motion.
I move that the Orem City Planning Commission approve the request for site plan approval for Raising Cane's located generally at 11 West Center Street in the C2 zone.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Rod moved and Mike seconded that we approve the site plan for Raising Cane's. And we will go to vote. Mike?
Aye.
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 All right,
Yeah. Do you want to say yours again? Jerry needs to say it.
Aye.
Okay. We have a unanimous positive vote for that, and we approve the site plan for Raising Cane's.
I think you mean the new city staff cafeteria that you just
Yes.
approved, kitty corner. Thank you very much for.
Yeah.
I will no longer have to drive to Provo for my Raising Cane's. I keep the money right here.
Thank
We
you,
are
sir.
all very
Commission lunch as well.
So we appreciate it. Thank you. Gary, anything for us before we go?
No, I haven't
Okay.
been here in a little while. Things have just worked out, so it's great to be back with you.
We're glad to have you. So, okay. Then if there's nothing else, we will move to adjourn. Can I have a motion?
I motion that we adjourn.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, Mike moves and Hasem seconds that we adjourn. Hasem?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous, so we will adjourn it at 5:57 PM. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. We'll see you next time.